In 480 BC, 1 year after the Battle of Thermopylae, Dilius, a hoplite in the Spartan army, begins his story of Leonidas I from childhood to kingship via Spartan doctrine. A Persian herald arrives at Sparta demanding earth and water. As a token of submission to King Xerxes, he urges Leonidas to submit and insults Queen Gorgo. In response, Leonidas and the Spartan soldiers throws the Persian herald and his Persian envoy into the bottomless pit. Leonidas then visits the ephors, proposing a strategy to drive back the Persians through Thermopylae, to funnel the Persians into a narrow pass, giving the Greeks heavy infantry the advantage over the numerically superior Persian light infantry. The ephors warn Leonidas that the Carnea is approaching, and that Sparta should not wage war during that time. They consult the oracle, who decrees that Sparta should honor the Carnea. As Leonidas angrily departs, an agent from Xerxes appears alongside a Spartan politician, Theron, rewarding the ephors for their covert support, although the ephors have denied him permission to mobilize Sparta's army. Leonidas gathers 300 soldiers. Theron and the council confront Leonidas about defying the ephors. "I go into war." Leonidas suggests that they will not go, that they depart for war shortly thereafter. They are joined by a force of a few thousand Arcadians and other Greeks led by Daxos. They reach Thermopylae, watching a storm sinking many Persian navy ships at the Aegean Sea. The Spartans then scout out a large Persian encampment and constructed the wall, using slain Persian scouts as mortar. Meanwhile, Leonidas encounters Ephialtes, a deformed Spartan whose parents fled Sparta to spare him certain infanticide. Ephialtes asks to join Leonidas' army and warns him of a secret goat that the Persians could use to outflank and surround the Spartans. Though sympathetic, Leonidas rejects him since his deformity could compromise the phalanx formation. The battle begins soon after the Spartans' refusal to lay down their weapons because of the narrowed pathway. The Spartans repel many waves of the advancing Persian army. Xerxes personally approaches Leonidas and offers him immense wealth and power in exchange for his submission. Leonidas declines and mocks the inferior quality of Xerxes' warriors. That night, Xerxes sends in his elite guard, the Immortals, accompanied by the monstrous Uber Immortal. But the Greeks are once again victorious. On the second day, Xerxes sends in new waves of armies, including war elephants and an armored rhinoceros, with no success. During a battle, Astynos is killed. Meanwhile, an embittered Ephialtes has defected to Xerxes and reveals the secret path in exchange for wealth, women, and a uniform. The Arcadians retreat upon learning of Ephialtes' betrayal. That the Spartans choose to stay, Leonidas orders an injured, the reluctant Dilius to return to Sparta and inform his compatriots of what has happened. In Sparta, Queen Gorgo has been attempting to persuade the Spartan council to send reinforcements to aid the 300 Spartan soldiers making their last stand. Gorgo comes to Theron for help, having been allowed to make her plea to the council, but Theron rapes her in exchange for his needed assistance, and the next day betrays her and attempts to defame her as an adulteress before the council. Gorgo kills Theron, revealing within his robe a bag of Xerxes' gold. Acknowledging his betrayal, the council unanimously agrees to send reinforcements. On the third day, the Persians, led by Ephialtes, traverse the secret path, encircling the Spartans. Xerxes' general again demands their surrender, but the Spartans refused and Stilios kills the general. Anger, Xerxes orders his troops to attack. Leonidas throws his spear at Xerxes, slicing his face. To prove the god king's mortality, Leonidas and the remaining Spartans fight to the last man, until they finally succumb to an arrow barrage. Dilius concludes his tale before the Spartan council. Inspired by Leonidas' sacrifice, the Greeks mobilize an army with Sparta leading the charge. A year later, Dilius, now head of the Spartan-led Greek army, leads them to battle at Plataea against the Persians. Historical accuracy. In the actual Battle of Thermopylae, the Spartans had already joined an alliance with other Greek Peleas against the Persians. During the Battle of Thermopylae, Xerxes' invasion of Greece coincided with a Spartan religious festival, the Carnea, in which the Spartans were not permitted to make war. Still, realizing the threat of the Persians and not wanting to appear as Persian sympathizers, the Spartan government, rather than Leonidas alone, decided to send Leonidas with his personal 300-strong bodyguard to Thermopylae. Other Greek palaes joined the 300 Spartan men and totaled somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 total Greek troops. The historical consensus among both ancient chroniclers and current scholars was that Thermopylae was a clear Greek defeat, and the Persian invasion would be pushed back only in later ground and naval battles, since few records on the actual martial arts used by the Spartans survive aside from accounts of formations and tactics. The fight choreography, led by the stunt coordinator and fight choreographer Damon Caro, was a synthesis of different weapon arts, with Filipino martial arts as the base. Paul Cartledge, professor of Greek history at Cambridge University, advised the filmmakers on the pronunciation of Greek names and said that they made good use of his published work on Sparta. He praised the film for its portrayal of the Spartans' heroic code and of the key role played by women in backing up, indeed reinforcing, the male martial code of heroic honor. But he expressed reservations about its us goodies versus us baddies polarization. 90 to Cartledge wrote that he enjoyed the film but found Leonidas' description of the Athenians as lovers ironic, since the Spartans themselves incorporated institutional pederasty into their educational system. Ephraim Lytle, assistant professor of Hellenistic history at the University of Toronto, said that 300 selectively idealized Spartan society in a problematic and disturbing fashion and portrayed the 100 nations of the Persians as monsters and non-Spartan Greeks as weak. He suggested that the film's moral universe would have seemed as bizarre to ancient Greeks as it does to modern historians. 90 for Lytle also commented, Ephialtes, who betrays the Greeks, is likewise changed from a local Malian of sound body into a Spartan outcast, a grotesquely disfigured troll who by Spartan custom should have been left exposed as an infant to die. Leonidas points out that his hunched back means Ephialtes cannot lift his shield high enough to fight in the phalanx. This is a transparent defense of Spartan eugenics, and convenient given that infanticide could as easily have been precipitated by an ill-omened birthmark. Victor Davis Hanson, a National Review columnist and former professor of classical history at California State University, Fresno, wrote the foreword to a 2007 reissue of the graphic novel and said that the film demonstrates a specific affinity with the original material of Herodotus in that it captures the martial ethos of ancient Sparta and represents Thermopylae as a clash of civilizations. He remarked that Simonides, Aeschylus, and Herodotus viewed Thermopylae as a battle against Eastern centralism and collective serfdom, which opposed the idea of the free citizen of an autonomous polis. He also said that the film portrays the battle in a surreal manner and that the intent was to entertain and shock first and instruct second. Turaj Daryi, who is now Baskerville Professor of Iranian History and the Persian World at the University of California, Irvine, criticized the film's use of classical sources by writing, some passages from the classical authors Aeschylus, Diodorus, Herodotus and Plutarch are split over the movie to give it an authentic flavor. Aeschylus becomes a major source when the battle with the monstrous human herd of the Persians is narrated in the film. Diodorus' statement about Greek valor to preserve their liberty is inserted in the film, but his mention of Persian valor is omitted. Herodotus' fanciful numbers are used to populate the Persian army, and Plutarch's discussion of Greek women, specifically Spartan women, is inserted wrongly in the dialogue between the misogynist Persian ambassador and the Spartan king. Classical sources are certainly used, but exactly in all the wrong places. Or quite naively, the Athenians were fighting a sea battle during this. Robert McHenry, the former editor-in-chief of Encyclopaedia Britannica and the author of How to Know, said that the film is an almost ineffably silly movie. Stills from the film could easily be used to promote Buns of Steel, or Ad Master, or Thigh Master. It's about the romanticizing of the Spartan ideal, a process that began even in ancient times, was promoted by the Romans, and has survived over time, while less and less resembling the actual historical Sparta. The director of 300, Zack Snyder, stated in an NTV interview that the events are 90% accurate. It's just in the visualization that it's crazy. I've shown this movie to world-class historians who have said it's amazing, they can't believe it's as accurate as it is. Nevertheless, he also said the film is an opera, not a documentary. That's what I say when people say it's historically inaccurate. He was also quoted in a BBC News story as saying that the film is, at its core, a fantasy film. He also describes the film's narrator, Dilius, as a guy who knows how not to wreck a good story with truth. In an interview, the 300 writer Frank Miller, he stated, "The inaccuracies, almost all of them, are intentional. I took those chest plates and leather skirts off of them for a reason. I wanted these guys to move and I wanted them to look good. I knocked their helmets off a fair amount, partly so you can recognize who the characters are." Spartans, in full regalia, were almost indistinguishable except at a very close angle. Another liberty I took was, they all had plumes. But I only gave a plume to Leonidas to make him stand out and identify him as a king. I was looking for more an evocation than a history lesson. The best result I can hope for is that, if the movie excites someone, they'll go explore the histories themselves. Because the histories are endlessly fascinating. Kveferak. In the paper The 300 Movie, Separating Fact from Fiction, noted that the film falsely portrayed the Greco-Persian Wars in binary terms, the democratic, good, rational us, versus the tyrannical, evil and irrational, other of the ever nebulous, if not exotic Persia. He highlighted 3 points. Regarding the contribution of the Achaemenid Empire to the creation of democracy and human rights. The founder of the Achaemenid Empire, Cyrus the Great, was the world's first emperor to openly declare and guarantee the sanctity of human rights and individual freedom. Cyrus was a follower of the teachings of Zoroaster, the founder of one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions. When Cyrus defeated King Nabonidus of Babylon, he officially declared the freedom of the Jews from their Babylonian captivity. This was the first time in history that a world power had guaranteed the survival of the Jewish people, religion, customs and culture. He abolished slavery,